Hello everyone, my name is Patrick Tanke and this week's presentation is going to be covering operating systems in firewalls. The scope of research covered in this presentation will include technical details as well as 3 hardening recommendations for the operating systems Windows Server 22 and Ubuntu Server 24, as well as for the firewall's Windows Firewall and IP tables within Linux. First, we will be talking about Windows Server 22. Some technical details for Windows 22 include the following: a secured core server, which uses hardware, firmware, and driver capabilities to enable advanced Windows security server features. Secured core servers also measure and verify boot processes with dynamic root of trust for measurement technology. Secured core servers can also isolate of driver access to memory with DMA protection. Next, we're going to talk about hardware root of trust. This is a TPM 2.0 module that is a secure crypto processor chip and provides a secure hardware-based storage for sensitive cryptographic keys and data. UEFI Secure Boot is a security standard that protects your servers from malicious rootkits. This ensures the server boots only firmware and software trusted by the hardware manufacturer. When the server is started, the firmware will check the signature of each boot component, including the firmware drivers and operating system. If the signatures are valid, the server boots and the firmware gives control over to the operating system. Virtualization-based security uses hardware virtualization features to create and isolate a secure region of memory from the normal operating system. TLS 1.3, or Transport Layer Security 1.3, is the latest version of the Internet's most deployed security protocol. This encrypts data to provide a secure communication channel between two endpoints. HTTPS in TLS 1.3 is now enabled by default on Windows Server 22, protecting the data of clients connecting to the server. Windows 22 now supports DNS over HTTPS. This encrypts DNS queries using the HTTPS protocol. This helps keep your traffic as private as possible by preventing eavesdropping and your DNS data from being manipulated in any way. SMB encryption allows Windows to automatically negotiate more advanced cipher methods when connecting to another computer that supports it. It can also be mandated through group policy within the server. Lastly, it has built-in hybrid capabilities, which will allow you to increase your efficiency and agility using Microsoft Azure. Three hardening recommendations I have for Windows Server 22 operating system include implementing the new Windows 22 security baselines. These include 3 new features: App Locker for allowing increased browser control and restrictions on servers. Script scanning is now enabled due to a parity gap being closed. It allows for Microsoft Defender to provide real-time threat protection, and restricting driver installations, allowing only administrators to do print driver installations. My next recommendation would be enforcing RBAC, or role-based access control. This means assigning permissions based on roles to ensure that users and administrators have only the access they require. This limits the threat of privilege escalation abuse. And lastly, I would enable advanced threat protection within Microsoft Defender to provide real-time threat detection. This can be implemented through the Windows Security Center or through group policy. Next, we will talk about Ubuntu Server 24. Some technical details regarding Ubuntu Server 24 include the following: binary hardening by using techniques to prevent common binary exploits and increasing security. They have disabled outdated TLS protocols from being used in favor of new protocols like TLS v1.3. Kernel live patching allows for increased uptime by applying critical updates without having to restart your server. Security with AppArmor built in allows for users to enforce MAC policies onto applications. Additional encryption support for network encryptions, ensuring the protection of data in transit. And they have worked on their underprivilege restrictions. So Ubuntu has improved upon the restricting of underprivileged accounts to reduce the potential of a privilege escalation attack. 3 hardening recommendations I have for Ubuntu Server 24 operating system are enabling and configuring automatic updates. This is important to ensure the system is always up to date and the latest security patches or hotfixes have been applied. Next would be to disable the root login. This is because root logins are a prime target in brute force attacks, and disabling this feature decreases the risk of unauthorized access. Lastly, I would implement AppArmor enforcement. This prevents applications from making any unauthorized actions or leaking data. Next, we will talk about Windows Firewall. Some technical details regarding Windows Firewall include the following. Stateful packet inspection tracks the state of active traffic on the network, only allowing specified traffic to make connections. Rule configuration allows you to control inbound and outbound traffic with a granularity allowing you to filter by protocol or port. Windows Firewall allows for 3 different network profiles. These include domain profile, which is enforced on devices connected to trusted domains, private profiles for home or secure small networks, and public profiles for restrictive settings applied when connected to untrusted networks like public Wi-Fi, and it will block most unsolicited inbound connections. It is integrated with IPsec, so it authenticates and encrypts data. It has logging and monitoring capabilities, including log details. It will capture drop packets and display source and destination IPs, ports, protocols, and the reason for the packet being blocked, as well as monitoring options such as Event Viewer, which logs significant firewall activities and anomaly detections. Lastly is a new default behavior where inbound traffic is denied by default and outbound traffic is allowed by default. These can be explicitly allowed or blocked in your server settings. 3 hardening recommendations I have for Windows Firewall include enabling the firewall logs. Doing this can provide insights into drop packets and allow connections for auditing as well as threat detection. Disabling unnecessary services and ports. This minimizes the attack surface by restricting the network access to only required services and ports. And the last hardening recommendation I would have is to monitor and update your rules regularly. This ensures that your firewall rules remain relevant and up to date. Establishing a routine to regularly check your rules is good practice. The last topic we will cover on this presentation is IP tables within Linux. Some technical details regarding IP tables include tables. They're the foundation of IP tables and help ensure control over packet processing. Chains. These are sequences of rules applied to packets at a stage. Rules specify the conditions for matching packets and what steps should be taken after they have been matched. And targets, which define the actions to take when a packet matches a rule. They can block IPs. This can be used to prevent specific IP addresses from accessing the system or network. Rule control allows for the creation and editing of rule sets to remove redundancies or ensure alignment with server policies. They can block TCP and UDP packets by controlling traffic in the transport layer protocols. And they can limit packets to protect resources by controlling the packet flow rates. This helps prevent DOS attacks and helps identify anomalies. 3 hardening recommendations I have for IP tables include setting the default chain policies. This involves setting your default chain policy to drop. This is a by default deny policy where all traffic will be dropped unless explicitly permitted. Second, I would prevent IP spoofing. You can do this by having your IP table drop packets with invalid source addresses. This prevents people from spoofing valid IP addresses and gaining access to your server. And I would configure it to drop invalid packets. These are packets that typically indicate malicious activity, and you can drop all packets not relating to a new or existing legitimate connection. This saves resources from being wasted on trying to handle invalid network traffic. Here are the sources I used for this presentation, and thank you guys so much for watching.